Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Lorie Eber, right? A metabolic health and midlife wellness educator who helps people understand not just what to do for their health, but why it works. In a world full of fad diets, quick fixes, and wellness trends, Lorie brings science, clarity, and practical wisdom grounded in psychology, physiology, stress science, sleep hormones, and real world habits. Lorie, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. I'm excited for these conversations, actually.
Thank you, Sakani. Let's just have fun with this.
All right. So, yeah, for those meeting you for the first time, who is Lorie and how did you get into, metabolic health education?
How much time do you have, Sakani? It was a long journey. You don't
Wow.
have um,
Well,
I
yes.
I was a corporate litigator for 23 years. It was a really fun career. It was hard to make partner because it was all guys and they didn't like girls too much. Eventually, I beat my head against the wall enough. They let me in. Then I opened and ran their branch office in Southern California. The firm is located up north, Northern California. I don't know how I did that. I just pulled a rabbit out of the hat, worked my butt off, and figured out how to make it work. Then I was 49 and I noticed I wasn't jumping up and down to go to the office anymore, kind of like you when you had your 9 to 5. I'm like, I don't know, it's my life. I don't get any of these days back. I think I've kind of done everything I want to do with this career. And I realize now when I look back on it, it was me proving things to myself. It was me proving I could be a hotshot lawyer. It was me proving I could break the barrier and become a partner. It was me proving I could open and run a successful branch office, even though the guy tried before it failed miserably. And I had gotten remarried to husband number two. Thankfully, I've stopped at husband number two, and I don't think I'm going for three. Um, and it did occur to me that he was a keeper, and gee, you have to spend some time on personal relationships to make them work because the whole time I was working, all I was doing was working. I did work out, but that was only so I wouldn't kill somebody because I was so upset at the end of the day. But I sacrificed my personal life, and I did it intentionally, and it didn't bother me. I just had a one faceted life, which I wouldn't really recommend to anybody, but that's what I decided to do. I also decided not to have any kids because I was so career focused and because I didn't want to feel guilty at work and at home and farm the kid out to daycare and have somebody else raise my child. That seemed idiotic, and I didn't want to be so heroic and flatter myself and think that I could successfully juggle a career and a child. So that was actually a very good decision for me. I don't regret it. Some people think it's selfish. I don't think so. So I made that decision. I had a good time with law, but I was thinking about, I'm on my deathbed. Do I care about I'm a hotshot lawyer? How many hours did I bill? How much money did I make? Or do I care more about relationships with people who actually love me? And they're not going to be that many in your life. And I thought, better go for the personal relationship, better now than never, right? So the problem was I'm a type A plus and I couldn't turn off the stress. So even if I wasn't physically at the office, I was stressed out and it was like hanging over my head. And my husband was saying, I'm not your secretary when I would say something, from which I inferred he thinks I'm bossing him around. And I didn't even realize I was bossing him around, but apparently I was. So I thought, you know what? You can't switch modes at the end of the day. You can't come home and say, hey, role number two, loving wife, just go into it. You can't. So I just said, the way you are, you got to walk away. You just got to do something entirely different. And I was hoping I had other useful skills and talents, but let me tell you, I was petrified I didn't. I was thinking maybe I just gotten into exactly the right box in life that fit my skill set, and I didn't have any other skills that would ever work in anything else. So the day after I retired, first of all, everyone was shocked that I had retired, of course, because I was the biggest workaholic in the firm. They're like, "What, Lorie, at 49? Nah, you'll be back. You'll be back. Why don't you why don't you do it part-time? I'm like, I'm not a part-time person. I just work the same amount and you pay me less. That ain't going to work. And nobody could believe it. But I just walked away and I was done. I was very done. And they all thought I'd changed my mind. A couple of people call me from time to time. I'm like, no, done with that career, done, done. So I distinctly remember the day after I retired. I mean, this was 23 years. This was my whole adulthood up to that point. And I'm like, geez, nobody's calling me. Nobody cares where I am. Nobody needs me. Oh my God, what do I do now? It was so frightening. You have no idea. And I always tell people, because I do some career change coaching with people, sometimes they come to me to talk about metabolic health. And I tell them things like, well, the problem is you hate your job and you got to get out of your job. And they're like, no, 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 I can't do that. I can't do that. And then 3 sessions later, saying, Lorie, could you tell me about your career change? So,
Wow.
yeah, they see the light. So, what I advise people now is hire a shrink when you are doing a career change because it's very scary. And the thing was, my whole identity was as Lorie the lawyer. And when I got rid of Lorie the lawyer, I didn't know who was left. I had no idea. I was hoping somebody interesting lived under there, but I wasn't all that convinced that that was the case. So I sort of took a different approach after I retired from law. When I was in law, I would say I was banging my head, kicking at doors, and that's what I wanted to do because I had things to prove. And as I said, really to myself more than anyone else. So I said, Lorie, we're not going to kick any more doors or bang our heads. We're done with that. Why don't you just, look for an open door? What a concept, kind of take it as the adventure it's supposed to be instead of being so rigid. I got to do this. I got to do that. These are my goals. So I actually wandered around through various and sundry careers for 10 years, Connie, before I found my passion. It took me 10 years. But I have to say, it was extremely rewarding, exciting, and felt really good because I found different layers of myself I had no idea existed. Here's just an example. So when I was a lawyer, I had to be mean all the time, basically. You're a litigator, you're a little looking girl, and the guys are going to try to run the railroad right over you. So you have to be a jerk back. But I grew up in New York City, so I already had the jerk training. That was no problem. So I just give it back to him. But I had to be mean, all the time. And it's tiring after a while. And it really was kind of an act that I put on because I could turn it off. It didn't bother me. I'm nasty in the deposition, and then as soon as it's over, have a good day. See ya. It's just it was a role I was playing, let's put it that way. But I did get tired of it, and I thought, maybe it's possible for me to be a nice person. Who knows? Might happen. So I just kind of, I just was able to sort of figure out who I am and what I'm good at and explore things and fall on my face and get up and try different careers and start at the bottom and have some person 20 years younger than me telling me what to do because I don't have a clue what I'm doing. And that was all fine. So first thing I did is I went back to school because that's my comfort place. I love learning. You should see how many certifications I have in everything related to metabolic health. We don't have any space left on the wall. Um, so I decided, what field could I find some work in? And I decided aging studies, and it was partly because my dad was older and he was getting a little confused, and I just moved him into a care facility. He was living in New York. I moved him into a care facility in California. And I realized, boy, is it confusing to navigate elder care in this country. It is just a complete fragmented mess, and people think things are free that aren't free. And there's got to be a career in there because I knew there was aging population. So I got a certification. I did it online because I wasn't about to go back to school with the 18-year-olds and hang there. I hated college life the first time around. I wasn't going to like it any better at age 50. So I got my certification, and then somehow I got into teaching at the college. I don't know how that happened. I had a session with one of the instructors, and she said, "I think you should go into teaching." And I went, "What? I don't want to go into teaching." Before I knew it, I went into teaching, which I'm still doing 25 years later. And I started with aging studies, but um, they let me come up with some wellness courses. So I teach those now, which is really cool because that turned out to be my love. So then I started volunteering in elder care, just trying to get my feet wet, see what it felt like. I volunteered at the Council on Aging. Eventually, they found jobs for me and paid me, and I ended up realizing I like teaching because we were trying to get some money into the Council on Aging by doing continuing education courses for people and charging them. So I learned how to create, a session and be funny and have the mic. And I thought, shit, this is fun. I really like this. I had no idea that I did. And I was good at it. The first one I did was about sex and the elderly, trying to get them in the door. It's a thing. So I did that for a number of years, and then I decided nonprofits are really weird the way they spend money, and I'm more of a business person. Then I started doing a bunch of public speaking all over the country about first elder care, and then I sort of went into boomer stuff because I grew up in the boomer age, baby boomers. But I didn't like the lifestyle because I was away from my husband, and you can't really control much. Sometimes people show up, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the projector and stuff in those days is working. A lot of times it's not. It's just too much, too much. And then I was able to get on places like the Huffington Post and a specialized health online magazine. And I found out I can do creative writing. I had no idea. And I don't do it that much anymore. But when I do it, I'm like in this Zen place in my head. And it just kind of flows. And then I read it later and say, geez, you wrote that? It's pretty good. So I was just kind of discovering all different pieces of myself, which was really a fun journey. So I would say to people, if you have the luxury of doing that, or even if you're doing it as a sidelight to a paid position, do it because it matters. So what else did I do? I did a whole bunch of different things. And then I decided, health has always kind of been a thing I cared about, and I was paying more attention to it now that I wasn't so stressed out and working mega hours. And so then I started to overeducate myself about it. First, I became a certified fitness trainer, and then I thought, I can't stand on the floor and count to 10 all day. Shoot me now. I can't do this. And and then I decided, then I was thinking about, and you'll love how this happened. Talk about career planning. What a joke. So my husband and I were talking one day about why are some people motivated to take care of their health and such a large percentage of the population doesn't even try or gives up at a certain age, 40, 50, whatever. They just go, well, I'm old. And so I'm looking on the internet and I find this new field called wellness coaching. I'm like, I wonder what that is. I start reading about it and I think, there it is. I found it, the Holy Grail, exactly what I might be good at and enjoy doing. Because it's kind of like you're an amateur shrink, you're getting into people's heads, you're teaching them how to make behavior change in small steps. And, you're basically talking to somebody and getting paid for it. It's not bad. So I started with one course and then I found out Mayo Clinic certified and I thought that name would help me get clients. And I just felt really comfortable with that career as an idea. It was like, here, okay, I finally found my fit. After 10 years of wandering in the desert, I finally found my fit. I would recommend that people try to do that if they have the, financial luxury of doing it, because I see so many people, they've been at some company, they hate their job and they're just hanging there because they need the benefits or until their retirement vests or something like that. That's not a good way to spend your life. Find something that you actually like to do if you can. And if you can't, you better get a really fun hobby to do when you're not on the clock. But, it makes a big difference. I just love what I do. I feel like I'm helping people with their health, which I think is a pandemic in this world. And what better use could I make of my time? I mean, it gives me purpose, which is a big deal in life, to feel purposeful in what you do instead of just, yeah, I go to work. Yeah, it's boring, but I got to earn the money. Why do you live that way? You have choices. Choose something that fits more who you are and gives you a sense of purpose. I think that's really important. I'm 70 years old and I'm going to work till I drop dead, because what do you do otherwise, Sakani? You sit there and wait for Okay, I'm going to be dead soon. I'm just going to sit and wait. I can't do that. I get up at 4 in the morning every day and I exercise. I go to the gym. I'm crazy. I walk, I ride my Peloton, and I do all kinds of stuff that most 20-year-olds are probably not doing because I've been doing it forever. And laying a foundation when you're young is huge in health because that's why I'm in good shape at 70. It's because I've been at this for decades. It's hard to catch up later, and it matters tremendously. You really got to take care of your health. The part that I was not good at was controlling my stress, which is a big part of metabolic health. And I'm still a type A plus. That's just I'm the world's only hyped up wellness coach. That's who I am. Yeah, I couldn't lose my personality or retire it. It just didn't work. So I still struggle with that, but I'm very good at giving advice to other people about how to de-stress. I just, I don't really have it down too much, but we're always a work in progress and we can always improve something. At this point, my diet and my exercise are pretty darn good, but not so great on the stress relief. Pretty good on the sleep because I'm very regular, but I have very weird hours. I get up at 4 and I go to bed at 9. Kind of weird, huh? So I just say I don't recommend it to any other human. You do not need to follow that path. But I'm very much a morning person and I love getting outside when it's still dark and it's quiet and there are no people around, no cars to mow me down. I just feel like, aren't I good? I got to jump on the world. How cool is that, before the craziness sets in. But, I would advise your listeners, try to find out who you are and don't feel bad about, switching things up. Don't get stuck just because you're too lazy to, do something else like you did. You don't like this path. Well, get off it. There are so many other paths you could take and you have so many more skills and talents than you ever know. You just got to try things and you're going to try some things that you're terrible at. Who cares? And that's what happens when you run your own business. I started my own business and boy, did I fail a lot. I would try this marketing ploy, didn't work. That marketing ploy, didn't work. I tried 100 things. I just kept trying to change and figure it out. And I didn't get a lot of good advice. I've always kind of been a lone ranger. I just kind of figure it out and I make a million mistakes and that's okay. Don't be ashamed to, put yourself out there, look like a fool, you know, perform badly. It's all okay. You're going to grow. And that's the kind of stuff that helps you remember things. And, the other thing it does is it helps you build confidence. It really does. If you're too shy and you don't try anything and you just get some entry level job and try to work your way through the corporate machine, you're probably not going to be that happy.
Wow.
I know
I think
that's very. So interview's over. Lorie answered one question only. Scotty said about 25. She's like, what was this? Not what I was expecting. Expecting to have a very sedate conversation about what is metabolic health, but I I understand who your audience is, and I want to talk to them, and you're part of your audience too. So be
exactly.
brave, try things, figure out who you are, and don't be ashamed that you don't know where you're going. I was confused too. I had no major in college, and then I went to what did I call it? Something about social sciences, but it was not a real defined major. It was something else. Oh, interdisciplinary studies in social science. That's what it was called. So that was like take whatever you want. So I took a bunch of women's health courses or women's studies courses because I was a big feminist then. I thought it'd be fun to learn. Yeah, it worked. But I already knew I was going to go to law school. You know why? You know why I wanted to go to law school, Sakani? This is really dumb. So I'm a kid, and I used to watch a TV show called Perry Mason, which I'm sure you've never heard of, but I'm sure you could Google it later. And the guy won every week. It was a courtroom drama. He won every week. He got the guilty person to confess. He got his guy off. And I thought, cool, this looks like a lot of fun. On that basis, I decided to go to law school. But let me tell you one other thing. So I went to Penn State for 2 years, and one of the requirements while I'm working my way through it is you have to talk to a guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to law school. And you know what the guidance counselor said to me, Sakani? You're never going to get in. Do something else. And you know what I took from that? Well, I'm never coming to talk to you again, and I'm going to prove you wrong. So there. And I did. And I still want to hunt the guy down, Sakani, and tell him, why would you say something like that to a student? That is so mean. Yeah. So
Indeed.
don't listen to other people. Be yourself. But don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself and make mistakes. That's what life's about. You got to go with the adventure. It's going to make you a richer, more interesting, more happy person. Don't fit in somebody else's slot. Everybody's unique. Don't try to go with, you want everyone in the world to love you. Why? I hate half of the people. I don't care if they hate me back. It's good. You can't live like that. It's too hard. Just be who you are. It's okay. You don't try not to offend people, but be who you are and just explore. It's okay. But confusion is perfectly normal. It means you're trying to figure something out. It's okay. How would you know? I mean, in college, where most people are is, okay, I was in this major. I hate it. I can rule that one out. 205 others to explore, but that one is out. We know that for sure. I mean, that's the reality. They talk about career planning. It's not planning. It's just, where do the winds carry me kind of thing more than anything else.
Okay, wow. This has been really, really amazing, actually. And you answered the whole question I was going to ask you.
Well, there you
So,
go.
yeah, you did actually. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I feel like I've learned a whole lot. First of all, I learned that I could decide to change whatever I'm doing, right? If I'm not happy with it, I could change. Nothing is
Yep,
holding me back, right? So
that's
yeah,
right. Be brave. Be brave.
yeah,
Well, you already did it once. And it's okay to be confused. It shows you're
yeah,
smart and you're trying to figure it out. If you're not confused at 20 something, I don't know what planet you got dropped in from, but how would you know? You're
yeah.
just, a lot of people, they get very driven by what their parents want them to do.
Mm, mm,
And they don't necessarily like it. And sometimes they don't even think about it. They just go do it to keep the parents happy. And that's crazy.
mm.
Are you watching the Olympics, by the way? The figure
Yes,
skating?
yeah.
Alyssa Lou or Louie, I guess her name is Lou. She just won the singles U.S. women's figure skating title, first time in 24 years. But I watched an interview with her dad, who's a guy who emigrated from China, and he just spent enormous amounts of time and money making sure she was the best skater she could be, and hiring and firing coaches, and sending her to this training place and that training place. And she was really good. And at 13, she won a gold medal. And at 15, she retired. But she was tired
Hmm.
of being pushed around and told what to do and have to work out every day and all this. It wasn't where she wanted to be. Yes, she had the talent, but her heart wasn't in it. She was just being pushed by her dad. So she retires. 2 years later, she says, "You know what? I really miss skating." She tries to make a comeback and understand that her body is entirely different at age 17 or 18 than it was at 13, when you could be a little jumping bean with no hips or anything. So the whole center of gravity is completely different and everything. And God damn if she didn't win a medal. And she just looked so happy and peaceful out on the ice, because this time around she said, "I'm going to make my own decisions. I'll hire the coaches I want. I'm in charge of the choreography and the outfits. I'm going to be in charge." And she was just the happiest camper at the Olympics. I mean, everyone was like, "Geez, I want to be around her." And I think that's why she won. She was really relaxed. She didn't put any pressure on herself. She wasn't doing it to win the medal. She was doing it because she really loved skating, and you could see it when she did it. And I thought that's pretty cool that she was able to do that. And her dad doesn't apparently hate her forever, because he was in the audience. Probably hated her for a couple of years, but not forever.
Okay, well, yeah. Thank you so much for this. Actually, I do have, another meeting, but yeah, I really do appreciate this. And where can listeners get to know more about you and what you do?
Well, I have a website, LorieEberWellnessCoaching.com. And can I just briefly tell you what I mean by metabolic health, which is where I live right now? So I started out kind of with the logical parts of health, which to most people are nutrition, exercise, and maybe hydration. They think that's metabolic health. But metabolic health is so much more. It's about the body brain interaction and all the hormones running around, and the symphony that your brain is conducting with everything. So things like stress and sleep and lack of social support have a huge influence on your health. And also whether your metabolism's clicking along and the calories are being burned or whether they're going to be stored for fat, whether you sleep properly makes a huge difference in all that. So pay attention to not only, the obvious things, exercise and eating right, but pay attention to these other aspects of your life because they all are equally important and a lot of people don't really deal with those as well. They just want to be skinny and look good and all that. But there's a lot more to being healthy metabolically than just those couple of things. So when I coach now, I talk more and more about people's stressors and are they sleeping properly and do they have support while they're making changes and all that because it matters tremendously.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this. This has been
Okay.
really insightful and yeah,
You're very
educative.
welcome. I know, not what you expected. I probably threw you a big curveball. I knew your podcast was 20 somethings, and then I just watched your intro thing, and I said, she doesn't need a lecture about metabolic health. She wants to know about, how to navigate life. I can tell her that. That's more fun anyway.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank you
much for
so
that.
much. Thank you too.
All right. So yeah,
You're gonna
thanks
do,
for
you're gonna do great, Sakani.
oh, thank you. I
You're
really
very
do
welcome.
appreciate
It was
that.
a pleasure to talk to you, my dear.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episode.